While your garden sits frozen and dead under the snow this winter, your kitchen windowsill can be handing you fresh salad, fresh herbs, and fresh greens every single week. No garden, no grow lights, no greenhouse. Just a window and a few pots. Most people believe gardening ends when the cold arrives. That from November to March, you're stuck buying tired, expensive, plastic-wrapped greens that were picked 2 weeks ago and shipped across a continent. That belief is costing you money and flavor for a third of every year, because there's an entire category of vegetables that don't just tolerate a windowsill in winter, they thrive on it. Short days, cool indoor air, and a sunny window are the exact conditions many of these crops prefer, and every one of them fits in an apartment with no special equipment at all. Today, we're counting down the 15 vegetables you can grow indoors all winter long. And stick around for number 1. It's the crop that turns a single $10 grocery purchase into an endless free supply straight through to spring. It will surprise you. Let's get started. Kicking off our countdown at number 15 is the single easiest crop to grow on a winter windowsill, the one that gives you a harvest in just 7 days. Microgreens. Here's the frustration with winter growing. Most vegetables need weeks or months and strong light to produce anything. Microgreens throw that whole problem out. You're not growing a mature plant. You're harvesting the seedling at its most nutrient-dense moment about a week after it sprouts. The reason this works so beautifully in winter is that a microgreen doesn't need much light at all. Everything it needs to grow is already packed inside the seed. The plant is simply unfolding that stored energy. A dim December window is more than enough to green them up before you snip them. Any shallow tray with a little drainage works. Scatter seeds thickly across an inch of potting mix. Mist daily, and in 7 to 14 days, you're cutting a dense carpet of greens with scissors. Radish, pea, sunflower, and broccoli are the fastest and most forgiving. Nutrition research has repeatedly found that microgreens contain dramatically higher concentrations of vitamins and antioxidants than the full-grown version of the same vegetable, sometimes several times more gram for gram. Fun fact: microgreens started as a restaurant garnish in San Francisco in the 1980s, and for years they were an exclusive, expensive chef's secret, until people realized a $2 packet of seeds produces what restaurants were charging a fortune for. Coming in at number 14 is the herb that practically begs to live on your kitchen windowsill: green onions. You already buy these constantly, and here's the part that stings. The part you throw away is the part that regrows for free forever. Every bunch of store-bought green onions comes with its white roots still attached, and those roots are a complete, ready-to-grow plant. The biology is almost too easy. The white base already contains a full root system and a growing point. Given water and light, it doesn't need to start from scratch. It just resumes growing, pushing up a fresh green shoot within days. You're not planting a seed. You're restarting a plant that was only paused. Take the root ends, about 2 inches, and stand them in a small glass of water on the windowsill, roots down. Change the water every few days. Within a week, you'll see new green growth, and you can snip what you need while it keeps producing. For an even longer supply, move them into a small pot of soil. Gardening guides universally list green onions as the #1 crop for kitchen scrap regrowing, precisely because the success rate is nearly 100% with zero experience. Fun fact, this trick went viral during the food shortages of recent years, when millions of people discovered they'd been throwing away a renewable food source their whole lives. A single grocery bunch can be regrown 3 or 4 times before it tires out. Sitting at number 13 is a green so perfectly suited to cold indoor air that summer actually ruins it. Mâche, also called corn salad. Most salad greens hate winter. Mâche is the rare opposite. It's one of the most cold-loving vegetables on Earth, growing happily in temperatures that would kill lettuce and turning bitter and bolting the moment things warm up. Your cool winter windowsill is its paradise. This tender little rosette of dark, nutty-flavored leaves has been a winter staple in Europe for centuries, precisely because it fills the coldest, darkest gap in the growing calendar when nothing else will. It asks for very little light and no warmth at all, the exact conditions a windowsill offers from November through February. Sow seeds in a shallow, wide pot, barely covering them, and keep the soil moist. Growth is slow but steady in the cool air, and you harvest the whole little rosette or pick outer leaves. It shrugs off cold drafts near the glass that would damage other greens. European gardening references describe mâche as the classic cold season salad, traditionally gathered fresh from under snow in French and German winter gardens for hundreds of years. Fun fact, mâche earned the name corn salad because it grew wild as a weed in the grain fields of Europe, corn being the Old English word for any cereal grain, and farmers ate it fresh during the winter wheat season. For number 12, we have a plant that gives you the flavor of celery, parsley, and pepper all at once and thrives in a pot indoors. Celery leaf, also called cutting celery. Regular celery is a nightmare indoors. It needs deep soil, months of cool weather, and constant moisture to form those thick stalks. Cutting celery skips the entire problem. You're not growing it for stalks. You're growing it for its intensely flavored leaves, which it produces continuously in a small pot. Because you're harvesting leaves instead of demanding the plant build big watery stalks, it's far less needy and far more productive in low winter light. Snip what you need, and it simply grows more all season long. One small plant flavors soups, stews, and stocks all winter. A 6-inch pot on a bright sill is plenty. Grow it from seed or from the base of a store-bought celery head. Set that cut base in a shallow dish of water, and new leafy growth emerges from the center within a week, ready to pot up. Herb references note that cutting celery is far better suited to container and windowsill growing than stalk celery, and delivers a stronger, more concentrated flavor leaf for leaf. Fun fact, cutting celery is actually much closer to the original wild celery that ancient Greeks and Romans grew. They valued it purely for its aromatic leaves and seeds, and the fat-stalked celery we know today wasn't developed until the 1600s. Just outside our top 10, at number 11, is the fastest-growing leafy green you can put on a windowsill, arugula. Arugula is built for exactly this. It germinates in days, grows in cool conditions, and gives you its first baby leaves in about 3 weeks, even in the weaker light of winter. And unlike summer arugula, which turns punishingly hot and bolts in the heat, Winter windowsill arugula stays tender, mild, and perfectly peppery. The cool air near a winter window is precisely what keeps it in that sweet spot. Slow, steady, flavorful growth with no bolting pressure. It's one of the few greens that genuinely prefers the conditions winter provides indoors. Sow seeds across a wide, shallow pot, barely cover them, and keep them moist. Harvest with the cut-and-come-again method. Shear the leaves an inch above the soil, and the plant regrows for a second and third cutting. Extension guides list arugula among the quickest and most reliable greens for indoor and cool season growing, noting that a single sowing delivers multiple harvests over several weeks. Fun fact: the ancient Romans considered arugula seeds a good luck charm and mixed them into aphrodisiac tonics. The plant was so associated with romance that it was planted around statues of their fertility gods. What did you think of those first 5? Have you ever grown anything indoors during winter, or is this your first time?
Let me know down in the comments below. Now let's dive straight into the top 10 of today's list. Let's keep it moving. At number 10 is the cut-and-come-again champion that turns one small pot into a winter-long salad supply: leaf lettuce. The mistake people make is trying to grow heading lettuce indoors, the big, dense romaine and iceberg types that need months and strong light to form a head. Loose leaf lettuce plays a completely different, far easier game. It never forms a head, so you harvest leaves the entire time it grows. This is the perfect winter match. Loose leaf lettuce tolerates the cool air and lower light of a windowsill. And because you're constantly harvesting outer leaves, the plant stays young and productive for months instead of racing to maturity. Loose leaf varieties also grow faster and need less light than any heading type. Use a pot at least 6 inches deep, sow a pinch of seeds, and thin lightly.
Once plants are a few inches tall, pick the outer leaves and leave the center to keep generating new growth. A single long window box becomes a rotating salad bar of oak leaf, butterhead, and red varieties. Extension trials consistently show loose leaf lettuce outperforming heading lettuce in containers and low light conditions, with far higher total yields over a season of repeated cutting. Fun fact: lettuce is a member of the daisy family, and its wild ancestor was so bitter and milky that the Romans served it at the end of a meal, believing its sedative sap helped with sleep, a property real enough that lettuce extract was used in folk medicine for centuries. Moving down to number 9 is an herb so aggressive that a windowsill is the only responsible place to grow it: mint. Mint is famous for taking over gardens, sending runners in every direction until it strangles everything nearby. But that same unstoppable energy, trapped in a pot on your windowsill, becomes a relentless supply of fresh leaves for tea, water, and cooking all winter long. It's one of the most shade-tolerant herbs there is, which is exactly why it succeeds indoors when sun-hungry herbs struggle. A window that would be too dim for basil is perfectly comfortable for mint. And it's almost impossible to kill. It forgives missed watering, cool drafts, and neglect. Grow it from a cutting or a store-bought sprig. Stand a stem in water for a week until roots appear, then pot it up. Shear it regularly to keep it bushy, and never let it share a pot. Mint crowds out every roommate. Herb guides consistently recommend containers as the only sensible way to grow mint, which means the windowsill gardener has the ideal setup by default. Fun fact: the ancient Greeks believed mint could clear the mind.
and students would wear woven mint crowns while studying, convinced the scent sharpened their concentration during long hours of memorization. At number 8 is the vegetable that quietly regrows on your windowsill from a scrap you're about to compost. Bok Choy. Like green onions, Bok Choy carries a hidden second life in the part most people discard, the dense white base. That base holds the plant's growing heart, and given water and light, it pushes out fresh new leaves from its center within days, a whole new harvest from kitchen waste. This works especially well in winter because bok choy is a cool season crop that dislikes heat. The cool air of a winter window keeps the regrown leaves tender and sweet without the bolting that summer triggers. It's a plant working with the season instead of against it. Take the bottom 2 inches of a store-bought head, set it cut side up in a shallow dish with a little water, and place it on a bright sill. New growth appears from the center in a few days. Once it's established, move it to a pot of soil for a longer, fuller harvest. Gardening references list bok choy among the most reliable vegetables for regrowing from scraps, alongside green onions and celery, because of that powerful central growing point. Fun fact: bok choy has been cultivated in China for over 1,500 years and was so valued that it appears in classical Chinese poetry and paintings, a humble vegetable elevated to an artistic symbol of simple, honest living. Claiming the number 7 spot is a warm, aromatic spice you can grow from a slice of the very root you buy at the store. Ginger. Fresh ginger is expensive, and the young, tender ginger that chefs love barely exists in American stores. But ginger is astonishingly easy to grow indoors, and winter is the perfect time, because ginger actually wants the warm, stable indoor temperatures of your heated home while it's cold outside. Here's the magic. Ginger grows from a piece of its own root. That knobby rhizome from the grocery store, if it has a few small buds, is a complete planting unit. Buried shallow in a pot, it slowly multiplies underground, sending up elegant bamboo-like shoots while expanding its edible root the entire winter. Use a wide, shallow pot since ginger spreads sideways. Plant a plump store-bought piece just below the surface, buds pointing up in a warm spot with bright indirect light. It's slow, but nearly foolproof. Harvest by simply breaking off a piece whenever you need it and let the rest keep growing. Nutritional references credit ginger's active compound gingerol with well-documented anti-nausea and anti-inflammatory effects, making a windowsill ginger pot both a spice supply and a natural remedy through cold season. Fun fact: ginger has been so prized for so long that it was one of the first spices ever traded along the ancient routes between Asia and Europe, and in medieval England, a pound of ginger was worth about the same as a whole live sheep. At number 6, we have the crop that proves you don't even need soil to grow food in winter: sprouts. If microgreens are easy, sprouts are effortless. No soil, no light, no windowsill even required. You're eating the seed at the very first moment of germination, when its nutrition literally multiplies. From dry seed to harvest is just 3 to 5 days. The biology is remarkable. A dormant seed is a nutritional time capsule, and the act of sprouting unlocks it, spiking vitamin C, enzymes, and protein availability as the seedling prepares to grow. You're capturing that burst at its absolute peak in your kitchen
in the dead of winter. All you need is a jar. Put a spoonful of seeds, mung bean, lentil, alfalfa, or broccoli, in a glass jar, cover the mouth with mesh or cheesecloth, rinse and drain twice a day, and keep it on the counter. In a few days, the jar fills with crisp, fresh sprouts. Nutrition research highlights that sprouting increases the bioavailability of nutrients in legumes and seeds while reducing the compounds that make them hard to digest raw. Fun fact: sprouts may be the oldest grown food in human history that requires no farming at all, and Chinese records describe sailors on long voyages sprouting beans aboard ship to prevent disease centuries before anyone understood vitamins. Are you impressed by these vegetables? Which one are you most tempted to start this winter? Let me know in the comments. Now, let's head into the top 5 of our list, and make sure you stick around for the final vegetable. It is absolutely going to surprise you. Let's step into number 5. Entering our top 5 is a fiery, flavorful crop most people never dream of growing indoors: hot peppers. Here's what almost nobody knows: peppers aren't annuals. They're tropical perennials, and in the wild, they simply keep living and fruiting year after year. Bringing one indoors for winter isn't a struggle against nature. It's giving the plant exactly the warm, frost-free life it actually wants. A pepper plant on a sunny winter windowsill in the warm air of a heated home will often keep flowering and setting small fruit right through the cold months, while its outdoor cousins are long dead. And a plant that survives its first winter comes roaring back in spring, fruiting earlier and heavier than any new seedling could. Choose a compact variety and give it your brightest, warmest window. Peppers want as much light as your home offers. Water when the soil dries and gently tap or brush the open flowers to help them set fruit indoors, since there are no insects to do the job. Horticultural references confirm that peppers overwinter well as houseplants in bright conditions, and that overwintered plants dramatically outproduce first-year plants the following season. Fun fact: the compound that makes peppers hot, capsaicin, evolved specifically to stop mammals from eating the seeds. But birds feel no heat at all, which is why wild peppers rely entirely on birds to spread their seeds far and wide. For number 4, we have a green so nutritious and so tolerant of neglect that it turns a dim window into a health machine: spinach. Winter is actually spinach's favorite season. It's a true cold lover that bolts and turns bitter in summer heat, but grows sweet, thick, and tender in cool conditions, exactly what your winter home provides. The lower light of the season is no obstacle because spinach is grown for leaves, not fruit, and leafy crops manage on far less light than fruiting ones. That cool air near a winter window keeps spinach in its ideal state: slow, sweet, and productive, with none of the summer bolting that ruins it outdoors. It's one of the best returns on a windowsill you can get all season. Sow seeds in a pot at least 6 inches deep, keep the soil cool and moist, and harvest the outer leaves as soon as they're big enough, letting the center keep producing. A cool, bright window, even one that only gets a few hours of weak winter sun, is enough. Extension guides highlight spinach as one of the most cold-tolerant and shade-tolerant vegetables available, ideal for the exact low-light, cool conditions of winter indoor growing. Fun fact: spinach originated in ancient Persia, and when it finally reached Europe, It was so prized as a nutritious winter green that Catherine de' Medici loved it so much that dishes served on a bed of spinach are called alla Florentine to this day, after her home city of Florence. Claiming the bronze medal at number 3 is the classic Italian herb that fills a winter kitchen with the scent of summer, basil. Basil is the herb people most want in winter and most often fail at. But the failure is almost always the same fixable mistake: not enough warmth and light. Basil is a heat lover, so the cold windowsill that suits spinach and lettuce is wrong for basil. Give it the warmest, brightest window in the house, and it flourishes indoors when everything outside is frozen. Once you match its needs, basil rewards you generously. Constant pinching of the tops makes it branch into a bushy plant, delivering fresh leaves for months. And there's a wonderful trick. A single store-bought basil stem stood in water on the sill grows roots in about a week and becomes an entire new plant for free. Give it a 6-inch pot near a south-facing window, keep it warm and away from cold drafts, and pinch the growing tips regularly. Never let it flower, which signals the plant to stop producing leaves. Herb references stress that warmth and bright light are the decisive factors for indoor basil, and that pinching the tips is what transforms a leggy seedling into a productive bush. Fun fact: basil is royalty in name itself. The word comes from the Greek basileus, meaning king, and in Italy, a pot of basil on a windowsill was historically a quiet signal that a household was welcoming and ready to receive guests. A runner-up at number 2 is a crop that hands you a fresh harvest in a week from a pot of soil all winter long. Pea shoots. Everyone thinks of peas as a spring crop that needs a long season and a trellis. But you're not growing peas for pods here. You're growing them for their tender, sweet, curling shoots, which taste exactly like fresh peas and are ready in as little as 2 weeks. It's one of the most satisfying and forgiving things you can grow on a winter windowsill. The reason it works so well is that the pea seed is large and packed with energy, enough to power that first burst of lush green growth with very little light required. A dim winter window is entirely sufficient to produce a thick, harvestable crop of shoots. Take whole dried peas, even the ones from the grocery store soup aisle work. Soak them overnight and sow them thickly across a tray of soil. In 1 to 2 weeks, you have a dense mat of shoots. Snip them with scissors, and many will regrow for a second cutting. Nutrition references highlight pea shoots as rich in vitamins A and C and folate, and chefs prize them as a delicate, high-value green that's almost never available fresh in winter stores. Fun fact: pea shoots are a treasured winter delicacy in Chinese cuisine, where they're called dou miao and command premium prices in restaurants. A luxury vegetable that you can grow at home for the cost of a bag of dried peas. And taking the absolute crown at number 1, the vegetable that turns a single $10 grocery purchase into an endless free supply all winter long. Garlic greens. Everyone knows growing a full head of garlic takes the better part of a year. But almost nobody knows this. You can grow garlic greens, the tender green shoots that taste like mild, fresh garlic, in a pot on your windowsill in under 2 weeks from the exact same cloves sitting in your kitchen right now. Here's the beautiful part. Every garlic clove is a complete plant in storage, loaded with all the energy it needs to burst into green growth. It doesn't need deep soil, strong light, or warmth. just a pot and a windowsill. And you don't wait months for a bulb. You harvest the green shoots continuously, snipping them like chives, and the clove keeps pushing out more. Take any head of garlic, even one that's started sprouting in your pantry, which most people throw away, break it into cloves and push them pointy end up into a pot of soil an inch apart. Water lightly, set it on any windowsill, and within a week, green shoots rise. Snip what you need for cooking, and they regrow again and again. Gardening references highlight garlic greens as one of the highest value, lowest effort indoor winter crops, delivering fresh garlic flavor for months from cloves that would otherwise have been used up in a single meal.
Fun fact: garlic has been grown for food and medicine for over 5,000 years. It was fed to the workers who built the Egyptian pyramids to keep up their strength, and cloves of garlic were even discovered placed in the tomb of the pharaoh Tutankhamun. Before we wrap up, we need to address the one mistake that quietly kills more winter windowsill plants than anything else, and it's about light, but not the way you'd think. Most people assume the problem is too little light, and they're half right. But the real killer is uneven light. A plant on a windowsill gets sun from one direction only, so it stretches desperately toward the glass, growing pale, leggy, and weak, then topples over. People see this and give up, blaming their bad luck indoors. The fix takes 5 seconds a week. Rotate the pot. Give every pot a quarter turn every few days so all sides face the window in rotation and the plant grows straight, stocky, and strong instead of lunging toward the light. For dark winter corners, a cheap clip-on LED grow light, the size of a desk lamp, completely solves the problem for the price of a few coffees. And one more. Winter windowsills get cold at night right against the glass. On freezing nights, pull your pots back a few inches from the window or slip a towel between the pot and the cold glass. That small buffer protects the roots from the temperature crash. Do those simple things, and a winter windowsill becomes genuinely productive, not just a hopeful experiment. Here's the real shift this list is about. Winter was never a dead season for growing. We just handed the job over to grocery stores and forgot we could do it ourselves. A sunny window is a tiny farm that runs on nothing but daylight and a few minutes of attention a week. Start with just one of these, a glass of green onion roots, a jar of sprouts, a pot of garlic cloves. Watch something fresh and green rise on your windowsill while snow falls outside. It changes how the whole winter feels. If this gave you something to look forward to this winter, hit that subscribe button and leave a like. And I want to hear from you. Which of these are you going to start on your windowsill first? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to see the perennial vegetables you can plant once and harvest for years, click the video on your screen right now. See you there.